It's time for Morning Blunt Talks, where we have conversation while in the fifth dimension. Black conversations black people are uncomfortable with having. I have a bunch. Misogyny and how we treat women for one, and how a lot of black men just emulate white men in a white supremacist society, and our emulation of patriarchy gives us a rage that we often give towards the women because we cannot fully fulfill the role of patriarch, which is oxymoronic because it was never meant for us to fulfill in the first place. Or what about the homosexuality that's rampant in our community? And we like to say that homosexuality was forced on us, which, that's up to interpretation because there were African societies that had homosexuality before we were colonized. But I will say that it is often ironic that for people who've been oppressed, that we, in turn, are very hateful, oftentimes violent, even killing, transgender and gay black people in our community while screaming that we are for the unification and love and prosperity of all black people, but not the undesirables. How any criticism of hip hop often turns into the system, even though for the past 30 years that black artists have perpetuated the self-destruction of their own communities by perpetuating harmful rhetoric and imagery. And no, it is not the fault of more so the artist than the industry, but the artist chooses to participate knowing well. So we are not going to strip accountability from the artists who perpetuate these violent, oftentimes misogynistic, homophobic, and glorifying criminality that a lot of these songs do. We're not going to talk about the fact that oftentimes we criticize black people just for them having expressed interest in things that are not considered black, which in itself is us being trapped in a box of what we consider blackness that white people predetermined, and any black person that doesn't fit that mold of what is a desirable black person, oftentimes with a conservative lens, we are ostracized or, again, met with violence and vitriol. What about if a black person speaks properly and they're instantly considered talking like a white person because white people have a monopoly on proper communication skills? This is getting fun. Are we going to talk about the rampant defense of sexual abusers and child molesters in the community because they're upstanding members of our community, and he's for the movement and we always tear down our own, when oftentimes it's a deflection for us to accept substandard behavior from our own community versus going to another community that would treat us better based on the fact that we're a good human being, and not thinking that because we're black that we should be accepting of substandard because we understand the predicament of the average black person. Which is irony is that they'll always be mad that a black person will often feel away about how they're being treated, even though they expected us to be more willing to accept substandard treatment because it's us and, y'all know where I'm coming from. But if you had a white business or a white consumer that you were doing that to, you would be doing everything in your power to satiate their needs and desires. You wouldn't be worried about them understanding your predicament. And that's where this conversation goes to, because there are a lot of conversations black people are really not ready to have, and I don't be caring. Do a lot of black people want to have the conversation how we're basically spiritually enslaved still, and how we worship, praise, and emulate the faiths and practices from cultures that enslaved us? You're Muslim, a lot of Africans are Muslim, through slavery. Christian, slavery. Judaism, slavery. And oftentimes that we are viewing ourselves through a Judeo-Christian lens that often saw us, black people, African people, as subhuman, which is the irony that a lot of these people who are wearing our face but speak against our best interests oftentimes come from very strong religious fundamentalist values that indirectly are against black people. The rampant sexual abuse of black girls, oftentimes in churches or by respected figureheads in their community, and they're told to shut up because they're going to ruin their lives and they were being too fast. Or the sexualization of black children at a young age openly, when grown women have come to young boys saying, I can't wait till you're older so I can have sex with you and touch you. Or you come to little girls, she's going to be pretty when she's older. And both are openly accepted. And oftentimes I heard those type of comments about myself at church. Funny. Are black people ready to talk about how we're going to a religious building to spend our money while we're dirt broke as the pastor lives a wonderful life, taking a little bit of the proceeds that he gets to maintain the building that he's getting a tax break on, meaning that him being as a registered pastor is using the money that we bring in tithes and offerings to maintain the building, though he doesn't have to with his own money, which is slick genius. But what do the other people get other than to come into a room and praise an invisible man for 3 hours? Or how black people don't mind being pimped and manipulated by people that look like them, even though they'll be done worse than if they just went to work with a white person. Because that black entrepreneur knows that you'll be willing to accept less because you're getting it for someone that looks like you, because our inherent value of ourselves is low because of the Christian fundamentalist values, because of the society we live in, and because a lot of black people were raised in a generation where they weren't even allowed to express themselves in totality. So there was mass amounts of therapy that black people need, with such an aversion towards mental health therapy when it probably be the saving grace of 2/3 of our generations. There's a lot of conversations black people don't want to have. How anything that's described as academia is called white man science, but then when you look in the history of like academics, mathematics, science, biology, it was black people just as much in the field making great innovations in science and mathematics. There was a lady who just fucking cured cancer with laser surgery. But of course, because that's white people shit, because anything involving scholastics, academia, or anything that's not stereotypically black, again, is white people shit. Because white people shit is inherently good shit, and black shit's inherently ghetto, ratchet, and nonsense. Are black people ready to have the conversation how hip hop isn't really ours anymore, and that we let other communities prosper and use the craft and be good at rapping? Meanwhile, black people don't really care for lyrical miracle ass niggas, even though every other community does, and we often allow our lyrical MCs to go unnoticed. It's like if a white person comes and spits incredibly well, we praise them for being a good rapper, but if a bunch of black guys come to be lyrical, we don't really care because we expect that from you. Which is the irony is that not everybody can rap that well, and y'all get mad at Eminem claiming he's the GOAT. But if a black rapper can't rap in the same way, y'all wouldn't pay him no mind because y'all don't even care for that type of rap from niggas in the first place. There's a lot of conversations I think black people should have, but are they? No.